Hi, it's John from Android Addicts, and today we're going to be comparing the Razer Kishi to the Glap Play. So I've been playing around with both these controllers, obviously the Glap Play for a bit longer than the Razer Kishi, but I thought it'd be good to do a bit of a comparison test to see how they compare to each other, considering they're the same price. So the Glap Play is around $79.99, as is the Razer Kishi here. So I'm just going to go through the pros and cons of each controller from what I have experienced myself, and hopefully it will help you decide which one is right for you. Okay, so like I said, there's pros and cons to both controllers here, so I'm just going to run through what I've made a note of here, and yeah, let me know if you agree down below in the comments, but this is what I've found personally. So here on the left, the Razer Kishi, one of the pros we've got here is that the controller is actually powered by your phone, whereas with the Glap controller here, you must charge your controller as it is battery powered, so obviously Bluetooth versus USB-C here. So that's something to consider. This must be kept charged up, whereas this one requires no power whatsoever. The other thing here we can see, obviously they both have USB-C connections at the bottom. Now the Razer Kishi allows you to charge your phone whilst you're playing, whereas the Glap Play does not allow that whatsoever. You can charge a controller while you're playing, but there's no ability to access your charging port of your phone. So you can't charge while you play with the Glap, but you can charge while you play with the Kishi. The Glap, however, does have an advantage where the USB-C connector can connect to your computer. So if you have a PC, you can use this as a controller on your PC. Not sure whether many people would actually do that, but it is one advantage over the USB-C connection on the Kishi here, which only allows you to charge your phone. So if we look at one of the negatives of the Kishi, basically you can only use the Kishi if your phone has a USB-C connection, and if that USB-C connection is in the direct center of your phone. Because if it isn't in the direct center, so my example here with my S20 Ultra, if it's not in the direct center, you're not going to be able to put your phone into the Kishi and have it connect. Whereas the advantage here, or the pro with the Glap, you can expand it, and it doesn't matter where the USB-C connection on your phone is, you can just clip it in place and you're good to go. Right, so something else to compare is the button layouts here. So you can see the Glap here at the back, the left analog stick and the D-pad are in this orientation here, whereas on the Kishi they are directly above and below each other. So it depends really your preference. So for example, if you're used to using an Xbox One controller, you'd probably be a bit more at home with the Glap, certainly for the left-hand side of things, because the orientation and layout of the D-pad and the left analog stick are the same. Now the right-hand side is reversed, which is slightly annoying because, you know, if you're used to an Xbox controller, you'd be used to just moving your thumb up to get to the buttons, whereas on the Glap, you must move your thumb in the opposite direction. But I think this is quite a good layout in comparison to the Kishi here, where you must move your thumb upwards to access the buttons. So like I said in my unboxing review of the Kishi here, I'd rather move my thumb sideways, even if it's downwards, to access buttons rather than up. That's a movement that's not as natural feeling as the Glap. Again, with the left-hand side of the controller, you have to move downwards to get to the D-pad. So that's another thing to consider. So the Glap is likely to fit pretty much any phone, and the Kishi will only fit phones with a USB-C connection in the center and up to the size of the S20 Ultra here. So anything bigger than this, and that is not going to fit in. The other thing to bear in mind is that you must take your phone out of your case when using the Razer Kishi here. Now the same can be said for the Glap controller. Certainly with my S20 Ultra, I would have to take it out of the case to get it in. But if you have a sort of more standard size phone, this is a Galaxy S8, you can pop it in with a case and you don't have to worry about taking it out, and away you go. Okay, the last physical comparison with the sort of layout of the controller here, or the build of the controller, is these sound vents here on the Razer Kishi. So here this is allowing you to let your phone speaker depending on where your phone speaker is. So on the S20 Ultra here, it's on the right hand side, as you can see. And the same can be said on the Galaxy S8, we have the sound coming out the right hand side. So when the phone's put into the Kishi, the sound is sort of channeled through these little vents, and you get the sound coming towards you, which is quite a nice little touch. With the Glap, however, once your phone is in the Glap, you don't get any channeling through any vents or any sort of holes. I mean, obviously it still can pass out through the sort of ridged rubber holding piece here, but it's not quite as forward facing as the Kishi. So sounds from games do sound better when you're playing with the Kishi. Okay, so I just want to compare the actual physical buttons and sticks of the two controllers now. So the Kishi, like I said in the unboxing video, it feels really nice. It's very comparable to the Xbox One analog stick. They even sort of have a same shiny finish underneath. Whereas the Glap controller feels a lot sort of looser. Now, when we come to the Gamepad Tester app, we'll see that that can have its advantages and disadvantages, but the feeling, the general feeling of the analog sticks just feels better on the Razer Kishi. Now the D-pads themselves, I would say that the Glap controller D-pad feels nicer. It's nice and clicky in comparison to the Kishi here, which feels a bit more spongy. It still works and it still does the job, but it could have been a lot nicer, I think. Now the face buttons here feel best on the Glap, I would say. In comparison, they feel a lot clickier on the Glap, but they feel slightly more spongy on the Kishi. So the buttons definitely better on the Glap here. Now we move on to the tops of the controllers. So the Glap has got huge bumper buttons here, the R1 button and L1 buttons, whereas the Kishi has just nice, small, easily accessible shoulder buttons next to the triggers. Now the triggers themselves, however, I prefer on the Glap in a way because they just feel like a trigger, whereas on the Kishi they don't really feel like a trigger at all. They feel good, but they just don't feel like an actual trigger, which you would be used to if you're using an Xbox One controller. That said, however, I do like the distance between the trigger and the bumper button better on the Kishi. You don't really have to move your finger too much. Whereas on the Glap, you do have to sort of jump and almost stretch to reach the bumper button here. So if we compare the Kishi to the Xbox One controller here, you can see nice and close and nice and close on the Kishi, whereas the Glap, it just feels too far away really to be as efficient. Now the only other buttons we can go through are obviously the home, the back and the start button. So again, it doesn't really matter, but the start button is here on the Glap, whereas the start button is on the bottom right on the Kishi. We have the select button here on the Glap, whereas the back or the select button is up here on the Kishi. Okay, let's just compare the two mechanisms here to get your controller installed. So, like I said before, you must remove your phone from its case with the Kishi. So you pop this little part out here and it sort of crumbles in your hands, and then you just slide it bottom first into here and then squeeze it as you can, tight as you can into the controller, and there we go. So it's not as easy as the Glap where we basically just pull it open, it locks in place, and then when we're happy we press the button here to close it back up and hold it in the right position. So ease of use, it's a lot easier to get your phone in and out of the Glap. If you've got a phone with a case on as well, you will not need to remove it, but you will always need to remove it if you're using the Kishi. So what we're going to do here is just test and see how accurate we can be with both the controllers and just compare them side by side if we can. So I'm actually going to record the screen of this because it'll be a lot easier for you to see if I put it up on the screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see which is more accurate. So what I will do is I'm going to draw a circle. Both controllers can draw a circle fine, obviously, and then what I'm going to do is fill in each quadrant of the circle with a different area of the controller, and we'll just see how it looks. So this is the Razer Kishi, so just draw the circle to start with. And what I will do is try and fill in as much of the top right of the quadrant here, this one in the top right, and we'll just see how well it does. Just gives you an idea of how accurate you can actually be with each controller. So this is very easy to do. I'm not having any problems at all. It's very easy just to colour this all in, and that will hopefully give you a bit of an idea as to how accurate you can be. And now try and go around the edge and fill in as much as I can. And you can see here there's no lag at all between me actually moving my thumb and the axis getting filled in here. Okay, so that was the Razer Kishi. I could continue and make all of this green if I wanted to, but I'm now going to just switch over to the Glap controller, and I'm going to do the top left and see how it looks. So initially my feelings are it's a bit looser to control than the Kishi, but it still is accurate, and it can, if I wanted to, just carry on going along here and fill in this quadrant completely. Okay, I'm now going to do the bottom left quadrant with the Glap. So I'm going to go around the edge, go up as accurately as I can. But you can see the response is very good. Even if it's Bluetooth, it does seem to respond very quickly. It doesn't seem to be much input lag, if any at all. So again, if I wanted to, I could fill it all in green, but for the sake of the video, I won't bother. So I'm going to move on to the Kishi for the bottom left now. And you can see, again, no lag whatsoever. This is obviously a direct USB-C connection. Okay, we'll go and do the same with the y-axis here. So we'll start with the circle. And I'll fill in this top right section here with the Kishi. Okay, and now I'm going to fill in the top right with the Glap. You can see here this doesn't actually reach as far as the Kishi did. but we are able to be nice and accurate and colour in the whole section if we wanted to. Okay, I'm now going to move to the bottom left quadrant now with the Kishi right hand analog stick. Nice and quick, and I'll just finish off with the Glap. Okay, so you can see from the results that both controllers have excellent analog sticks, and I think at the end of the day it will really be down to whether you prefer a sort of stiffer Xbox One style control or the slightly looser controls of the Glap here. So I suppose the question after all of this is, which one would I recommend? Being that these are both the same price, it depends what phone you have really. If you have a phone which can take the Kishi and will work with the Kishi, I'd get the Kishi. If you have a slightly older phone which maybe doesn't have USB-C, or it doesn't actually have USB-C in the center to be able to fit the Kishi, the Glap is still a fantastic controller, and it is still, you know, going to see you through every game without any problems. So if you can use the Kishi, I would use this. If you can't use the Kishi for whatever reason, I'd go for the Glap. But I hope that gave you a good idea as how they compare functionality wise with the analog sticks. Buttons, I mean buttons are buttons, aren't they? They work, they do the job. I've explained that the D-pad is slightly spongy on the Kishi compared to the Glap, and I prefer the more clicky buttons of the Glap to the spongier buttons, face buttons of the Kishi, but I prefer the layout of the Kishi triggers and bumper buttons compared to the Glap. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like button and let me know down below in the comments which controller you prefer. Is it the Glap? Is it the Kishi? Let me know your reasons why, and I'll be sure to agree or disagree with you in the comment section. Click the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future, and until then I will see you in the next one.